Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. What I wanted to do this morning is I wanted to basically show you guys something really quick here on Strava. Now, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I made a short video when I was out on a ride talking to you guys about how lately I've been, trying to focus on becoming more efficient on the bicycle as opposed to more or less just always trying to put out, absolute more peak power. And that basically, I was thinking that, obviously there's a fine line between, there's that perfect harmony between power output production and speed and body position and speed and, efficiency. What's going to be the most efficient way to ride? And I recently made an attempt at a local hill here on Strava. I recently made a KOM attempt on a hill where I already had the KOM. And basically, the way I rode it this past time was a lot different than the way I rode it when I previously took the KOM. And I wanted to talk to you guys about that a little bit this morning. Basically explain to you the differences and show you some of the data and how I really think there's something to that. The fact that you want to be more efficient as opposed to just always focusing on trying to be more powerful. So let's see. Now this is it's the biggest hill that's really within like an hour of my house, basically. And it's on Strava it's called Pond Road Climb. Basically, locally here we call it Owl's Head Hill. It's a hill. It's a 1.8 mile climb that goes up to a little town called Owl's Head. It's a pretty rural area up there. It's a climb I do quite a bit. And basically this is a 1.8 mile climb. Average is about a 5% grade. You gain about 840 feet of elevation. It's a category 4 climb. And so basically, let's see, back on my previous KOM was back on August 24th of this year, which was like a week before Green Mountain Stage Race. I remember the day very well. That was like my final Green Mountain Stage Race, like, max effort interval to like test where I was at. And on that day, I did that climb in 8 minutes and 1 second, and my average power for the climb was 353 watts. Okay, and I had an average speed of 14.1 miles an hour. And I did that, when I did that effort, back on that August 24th effort, I rode exclusively out of the saddle. I did the whole climb out of the saddle and it was an absolute all-out, flat-out effort. And I averaged 353 watts for basically 8 minutes, and that was the KOM. I had beat my previous best time up until that point. My previous best time was done on October 4th last fall, 2016, when I averaged 261 watts for an 8:33. So basically, I was putting out almost 100, basically over like 92 more watts this year. So, and which goes in line with what I've been thinking, that my functional threshold power, I've always kind of said all along this year that I felt I was up around 100 watts from where I was last year, and that's pretty much what Strava is saying here on these efforts. Now, okay, and like I said, now recently here on October 10th, I did another effort where I went out and was really attacking this KOM hard. I felt good, and attacked this effort again, riding completely differently. This time I rode not exclusively, but I did like 90. I would say I did like 90% of the climb in the saddle, trying to stay as aerodynamic as possible with, a lot higher cadence than when I ran on the August 24th effort. And I did do a couple of short efforts out of the saddle, pretty much at the start, basically the steepest points, pretty much like right at the beginning of the climb and right towards the very end of the climb is when the grade is at its steepest. It's probably pushing like 10% in those couple of short segments at the beginning and the top. And in those segments, when the speed's a little bit less, I was out of the saddle for maybe a total duration of like maybe a minute. Okay, but I did the majority of this effort in the saddle, high cadence. And as you see here, my power output was only, was only 318 watts. So basically like 35 watts or so less power than on my August 24th effort. But I basically took 14 seconds, off of that time. I did it 14 seconds faster with 35 watts less power. And I attribute that to basically the fact that I was riding in a much more aerodynamic position, okay, as opposed to being out of the saddle where I was putting up more power, but I was also taking on much more wind resistance. And as far as the weather, obviously there was a difference in weather on the 2 days. I honestly think it was a tad bit windier this last day, the day that I did basically this 747 effort, this most recent effort. I feel like the wind was more negative to me on that day. And even with that considered, like I said, I went 35 seconds quicker, 14 seconds quicker with 35 less watts. Now, on the August 24th effort, I was riding my my Cervelo R3. I was riding my Cervelo R3 for that effort, and recently here I was riding the Dogma, the Pinarello Dogma F10. Obviously there's a little bit of a weight difference there too. I think the Dogma's like maybe a pound and a half lighter, maybe, than my Cervelo. That's a little bit different. That makes a little bit of difference. Is it 14 seconds difference? I don't think so. I attribute it more to the fact that I was riding in a much more aerodynamic position during the effort. And like I said, guys, I just think that this kind of helps, help show that, in fact, putting out more power, raw watts of power, is not necessarily the fastest way to go over a climb or any particular portion of roadway. It really boils down to efficiency. You want to be the most efficient at laying down the power, and I think that these two recent efforts kind of show that. Okay, like I said, the fact that I put out 35 less watts and went 14 seconds faster on a climb, and I attribute that mostly to the fact that I was in the saddle, staying in an aerodynamic type position throughout the effort. So I just wanted to make this short video for you guys, kind of showing you this. I thought it was pretty neat, and certainly something I'm going to continue to work on moving forward, is just basically trying to become more efficient on the bicycle, as opposed to just always focusing on how can I put out the absolute most power. I don't think that's necessarily the most important thing all the time. So, all right, guys, I appreciate you guys tuning in to the channel as always. I look forward to seeing you right back here in my next video.